Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, Scott.
Hey guys,
Hi, Scott.
Hey, Randy. Hey, Senate. Hey, Angela. Hey, Martin. Looks like Martin's still connecting.
we got Mehmet. I'm keeping an eye on folks here too. So Randy and Senate chatted hello. And Angela is oddly transparent. There we are. Okay.
Hey, Angela.
Hello.
Okay. So welcome everybody to the next, our latest brown bag. So today we are going to have Ian Sedano. Wave to the people, Ian. Ian's
Hello.
over there. So we're going to turn this over to Ian here, and he's going to talk about AppScript, which is the language that Google uses to modify Google Docs and Sheets and all that other fun stuff. So I'm excited by it. I know Ryan's excited by it. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ian and let you guys know real quick before I turn it over to Ian. Sorry, Ian.
Okay.
That after Ian's done, we'll have time for questions. It can be questions about what Ian's talked about. It could be questions about other things as well. And we'll have an announcement as well about the next coding challenge, which just dropped today too. So I'm going to turn it over to Ian and take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ian. I've find that at work I'm working a lot with AppScript just because it's such a useful interface to deal with Google stuff. And since it seems that most people these days are using Gmail or Calendar or Sheets or Docs, some kind of Google thing, that it can be useful for anyone that uses these things. I should mention that AppScript is actually just JavaScript behind the scenes. They try and differentiate it from JavaScript because JavaScript will usually run in a browser. So on your web page, what's going on behind the scenes is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the context of that code is a browser that's running on your local machine. Whereas AppScript, which is visually identical and functionally identical to JavaScript, actually runs on Google servers, where they have access to all the mails and sheets and all that kind of data. So yeah, my idea is for today that we can take a suggestion from someone that has an idea of, or maybe they could share with us some kind of workflow that they do, or some job that they do with email, sheets, presentations, anything ideally that's tedious and that is repetitive that could be automated. So does anyone use, let's see, show of hands if anyone uses Google products, or you can say in the chat if you use any Google products. Cool. So what do you guys use mostly? Is it mostly Sheets or Mail or Calendar or presentation?
All of the above for me.
And slides and docs.
And slides and docs. Yeah.
Docs and Gmail. Yeah, we got some Randy saying everything. Senate's got Sheets, Docs, and Slides. Mail and Calendar from Martin. So yeah, lots of people use lots of stuff.
So anyone have any sort of repetitive tasks that they do? That they would, well, anything repetitive, not necessarily that might be automatable, but anything repetitive.
I find that trying to delete bulk mail is difficult in Gmail, I found. So something to help with that would be amazing.
I think we could do that actually. Yeah, let's just run with that. I mean, the idea for me today was sort of to just grab an idea, something that seemed interesting that I might not have done specifically, and that actually sounds good. Let's see. Let's start off. I'm going to share my screen. So can everyone see what I'm looking at right now, which is the AppScript homepage?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to set this up so I can see the chat as well, but I'm not. So, John, maybe you could keep an eye on chat for me because I can't seem to see it at the same time. Oh no, here we go.
Yep, can do.
Okay. Okay, I've got it. That's cool. But let me know in case I get too engrossed in this process. So this is the AppScript homepage, developers.google.com/apps-script, sometimes also called GAS, Google App Script. This is really it's a very good and thorough resource for everything AppScript. A good place to start is with the guides, especially the Learn AppScript, the code labs. They can be a bit simple to start off with, but it's really good just to get into the flow of them. And the place where I spend most of my time, if I am on this site, is this reference area. And the place where we're going to look at for Gmail stuff is here in Google Workspace Services. And let's just open up Gmail and look at the overview for now. So this is a good moment to talk about how AppScript scripts sort of are put together. It's just the Zoom pop-up keeps on hiding my tabs, so I'm just going to move this down here. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so you can start a script from Drive. You can go to New, down here, More, and Google App Script. Or you can go to script.google.com/home, and here you can start a new project. So let's start a new project from here. And if anyone has any questions about any of this stuff while I go, please don't hesitate to ask. I am going to try and move quite quickly to try and get the script done within half an hour, and then we'll take questions after the half an hour is done. See if I can get this done. But please also don't hesitate to ask questions. So let's call this Gmail Cleaner. Okay, so as you can see here, we have a function. You should know that for these things to run, you just say put console log hello. You get nice autocomplete stuff here. And you have to run these functions. You can't run the whole script as what you might do in sort of when you're developing other programs. You choose a function, my function, and you run, and then you get the execution log that comes up here. Takes a few seconds because it has to go to Google servers, run, and then come back with a response. Seems to be taking a bit longer than usual today, but that's expected. So here we go. Hello. This is just JavaScript, as I've said. What makes it AppScript really is connecting with the services. So we've got things like Gmail app or Spreadsheet app, document app. So they're all quite aptly named, but let's look at Gmail app. And we can see here, when we press dot after Gmail app, we get a bunch of autocomplete suggestions. Get drafts, get inbox threads, get messages, get user labels, mark messages, move messages, search, send, all this kind of good stuff. So let's go back to the reference and understand a bit how Gmail is structured. In that sense, I'm just going to clean up some of these tabs. So as you will probably know from using Gmail, that it organizes messages into threads. So you have the whole app as a whole, and then within that you have threads. Within the threads, you have messages. So there's a handy, if we go into the, so let me just talk about the structure of the documentation. So over here on the left, you'll see the Gmail app service, and then the different classes within that. So these are sort of the different objects within Gmail that you can access. So we talked about the threads, we go deeper into them and you get the messages, then you have labels, drafts and attachments. So those are the main objects that you interact with Gmail. Let's just take a look at spreadsheets so you can get an idea of how extensive the spreadsheet one is. As you can see, there's loads and loads of stuff here that you can interact with in spreadsheets, which is, I mean, it's amazing what you can do with spreadsheets, but let's just focus on Gmail for now. So what do we want to do first? We want to get all the threads. So let's go into Gmail app and have a look at the different methods they have. So if we're going to get things, usually I just press Control F in the browser and press get. So I get all the methods that are getting stuff to come up. And let's just look for get threads. Yeah, you can get inbox threads over here, retrieves all inbox thread irrespective of labels. Now, this might be a bit overkill, especially if your Gmail account is old. So let's see if there's another method, which is the search query. So here, what we can do is, let's just copy this snippet over into our project. And we're going to use const because that's better practice for JavaScript. Just a way to declare a variable. So here you can just use exactly what you would use in the Gmail app search box. The Gmail app search box, when I say Gmail app, the GUI, I mean the web app that you go into when you visit mail.google.com. So you'll have the search bar at the top and you can insert different search terms like, is it starred or is the subject important? So let's say the subject is maybe, or let's just do a simple search. So we know that all the emails that we want to delete, for instance, have delete me. They probably wouldn't have that in the actual real email, but you can, what's it called? Filter the, you could mess around in the GUI in the actual app with the search terms. And once you've got a search result that returns all the emails that you need, you can use it in here. So I'm going to actually do, let's see. I'm just going to put my name in so we get some results here. And then I'm going to console.log threads. And I'm going to run this. Here it's going to ask me for permissions. This is a security feature of AppScript and all Google projects in general. If you're going to be accessing any sensitive information, potentially sensitive information like your email, then it's going to come up with this authorization screen, which will take a second. Just going to choose my account. Google hasn't verified this app. That's fine. You can just go to the advanced and then go to Gmail Cleaner. It says unsafe. It has lots of these dramatic warnings, but probably with good reason. AppScript can and has been used or abused to get user data. And since I know that I developed this application, I'm just going to give it everything. So as you can see, on the console here, I've got the hello, which I'm going to delete because I don't need that anymore. And oops, I'm going to run it again so I get it again. Here is just a very long list of objects. Now, with console log in AppScript, if it's a complex object, it will just sort of summarize it saying that you've got something here. So within each of these is a thread. A thread is a collection of messages. So we want to go through, for each of these threads, we want to go through and get all the messages within those threads. So let's go to the threads object over in the documentation to look at the methods that we could use. Get messages is the one we're looking for. So now we'll go into, we'll make another variable equals threads dot get messages. And then we will console.log messages. Actually, we can't just do this because this threads is a list, an array, so it doesn't have this get messages response. What we have to do is threads.forEach. Now this is just a for loop, but with JavaScript syntax. For each thread, this is sort of lambda syntax, but here we go, threads, thread.get messages. Equals threads. So what's going on here? For the threads, for each thread in my list of threads up here, for each one, I'm getting the thread, and then I'm creating a new variable in that, in the scope of this one thread, and I'm getting the messages of that thread. And then I will console.log messages. And I will, when I run this, I'll get a whole load of output. You can see each thread coming through here. So this thread, for instance, had 2 messages in it, but most of them just have 1. So let's stop this because it might take a while, because obviously with my username searching my mailbox, I'm going to get a whole load of messages. So let's see if we can get a bit more of a meaningful output. And I know that there is oh no. So this is our list of messages. Now for each message, we want to do something similar to what we did with the threads. So we're going to go messages.forEach message. And we're going to subject equals message.get subject. This is another method that we can call on the individual message to get this subject. And then we're going to console.log the subject. How am I doing on time? Okay, we're good. So now this should give a bit more of a meaningful output. Now you can see here, all my emails are coming through, pretty much everything unfiltered. There we go. So that's every single email that comes up with the search result, the search query term in Sedano. So I'm going to stop this again because it'll take a while. So what can we do from here? We could, although I'm not going to do this because obviously I don't want to delete all my messages, but we could, in theory, say delete perhaps, or isn't trash. I can't exactly remember. Let's see. Let's go into the messages object in the reference documentation. Let's see if there's anything under delete. I think actually this kind of operation has to be done at the level of the thread. So let's go back to threads and see if we can find trash. Move to
Ian,
trash.
Galad just mentioned that he saw a move to trash option when you were, oh, there you are. Yeah.
Well, that was in the threads, though. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. Let's see if there's in the messages. Yeah, for a message, it seems like I can't do it. Oh yeah, move to trash. You're right. Well spotted, Gilad. Thanks for that. So yeah, I can do something like move to trash. Now remind me not to run this, although it'll probably be too late by the time I did it. But this would just move all my messages to the trash.
Definitely don't want to run that one.
No, although again, it's in the trash, so I could recover it. It'd just be really tedious.
Right.
So yeah, we can star things, and yeah. So can I go back to who gave me the suggestion again, and ask if that is
Sorry, it was
roughly...
me. Yes, that's That's
Martin.
definitely it. Yes, exactly.
That's it.
exactly. That's
Cool.
it.
Excellent. So yeah, like
So-
if that works for you, then that works. Obviously, you can also within the subject here, you could filter it more. So if the subject contains this, or you could also const message or body, you could message.get body. This will actually return the HTML content of an email. I recently used this exact method because I was getting a book sent to me in chapters, email by email. So what I did is just went through the emails and moved all of those into a Google Doc. So yeah, so I could then call the Drive app and then create file. And in here, basically, I just before that I worked with the HTML a little to get it into the right format, and then went into Drive app, created the file, fed it HTML, and it can automatically translate that into a Google Doc. So there we are. Ryan, I cut you off. You were about to ask something.
Oh, well, first of all, this is all super cool and obviously incredibly useful, right? I'm already thinking like of all the things I can do with this. So just to maybe extend this a little bit, could you have it take in like and we might not have enough time for this, but let's say that we had like a Google Drive document or sheet that had a list of keywords or senders, for instance, that you wanted to delete, right? So you could just have a list in Google Drive of like, as you're going through your email, anything that says Geico or the word insurance or like that. Read that in, loop through those, and then basically as you're going through the messages, see if the subject or the body matches one of those terms, and then if so, delete it. And then my next thought, we don't have time for this, would be to keep track of which ones you've deleted, right? And then send a summary email to yourself saying, like just for 37 emails were deleted with these keywords, etc. And not that we need to do that now, but like this could really be turned into something that you use legitimately,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then later you could add the summary email to the list of emails that you delete. So and then have it send another summary email and get into just a wicked infinite loop stuff.
Yeah, well, AppScript actually has a limit of execution of 6 minutes. So I'm pretty sure you could do a lot of damage in there. And actually there are ways to work around that, where you sort of create a trigger for it to spawn itself again and pick up where it left off after the 6 minutes of. So yeah, anyway, we won't get into all that, but I think we can get pretty far with your suggestion in the 6 minutes we have left. So I think the best way to do that is with the spreadsheet, just because it's a much easier way to get these sort of lists and terms in a human editable way. You could do it in Docs, but Docs has a bit of a funny way, a bit of a maybe counterintuitive way to interact with the data there. But let's go for it here. So let's say you said Geico, I think was one of the terms. Let's say JavaScript. What else do I have in here? Security warning, Amazon. Yeah, that sounds good. So here, let me work quickly here.
And we could potentially, not necessarily delete them, but just demonstrate that you would, we don't have to go, take a hatchet to your inbox right now.
No, don't worry. No, I'm not that committed. So first of all, here so now we're really working with the Spreadsheet Service, which is what I do spend a lot of time on because it's incredibly useful. So what I usually do is I get the file first. So that is the spreadsheet app dot get file by ID, get open by ID. There we go. And then in here, so I've made this spreadsheet, let's just call it filters. The name is irrelevant. The key part here is this part in the URL. This is the ID of the document, and you'll see this in a lot of different Google apps. So this is the unique identifier. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in here as a string. So now we have our file, and then I'm going to get the sheet equals file dot get sheet by name, and usually that's sheet 1. Let's just double check. Yeah, sheet 1. Const range. Now with spreadsheets, you always have to get the range of them first. Let me just explain. So a range is that, for instance, you can see it up here, B6 to E10, that's the range. The values are within that range. So sheet dot get data range. What this method does is it just grabs everything that's on the sheet. So we only have this, so the range it's going to get is A1 to A4. You can do this manually. You can say get range and then put in the A1 notation in here, A1 to A4. So let's just do that. And then const values. And then we're going to take that range and get the values. Yeah, that's it. So let's console.log the values here and comment out everything here. And so we can see and test that this is working. Now, since I'm using a different app here, Spreadsheet, now I'm moving into a different area of my sensitive information, so I will need to authorize that as well. Yeah. No, what's happening here? I don't know what happened there. Maybe I pressed the wrong button. Let's try it again. Turns out I'm going to spend most of my time going through security checkup and coding. Let's see. Advanced.
The beauty of live demos.
Yep. Okay, there we go. Now you can see it's going, saying email and spreadsheets. Okay, there we go. This is a 2-dimensional array. So we've got a list on the outside, and then each array within the array is a row. So 1 row, 2 row, 3 rows. That's why they're all in arrays. So let's clean up this value a bit. So const, we'll call them filters, values.map, row 0 is just the first element in the array. So I'm mapping these. So now filters should just be a list of strings. There we go. That's just a convenience thing. So now what we want to do is create a search term, and I can't remember. I think in Gmail, the only thing you need to do, so const search query is filters.join. What we're doing here is we're just joining each of the filter terms, or the terms we have, with a space. I believe that Gmail automatically makes this an OR. I could look it up now, but I think we're at time limit, so I'm not going to, but let's just see if we can finish this in the next 2 minutes. Search query.
There's also a spelling,
here.
Spelling error on line 10.
Yeah, good, yeah. Yeah, the nice thing about this editor is it will tell you, it says this one's grayed out, so that means it's not used. But John's way ahead of me. So there we go. That's our search query. So that now it's going to, and then what we want to do is insert that into here. And then let's uncomment all this. And then we'll look at the subjects again. Console.log subject. And we can also make a variable out here called const messages processed, for example. We'll just make that a list. And then we can, let's just add them here. Messages processed dot push subject. Got some indentation thing going on here. Okay, and then we will console.log messages. Am I doing this right? I think so. No, I'm not doing this right. So I'm not sure exactly what's happened here. So I'm getting the threads. Maybe there isn't anything. Maybe the space isn't a and. Let's see if we do or in here. Okay, this looks like it's actually doing something. So let's just, there we go. There we go, it's finished. So let's just go through this code and then I'll talk through the output. And then I'll take questions. So we are getting the file here, spreadsheet app opened by ID, we've got the ID. Then within the file, we get the sheet 1. And then within that sheet, we get the range A1 to A4.
Hey, Ian, one quick request on the code. Can you zoom in a little bit just to make the text a little bigger for the,
Absolutely.
like a, there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Can I? No. Seeing if I can collapse this. No, I can't. So we're getting the range A1 to A4 in here. And then we're getting the values within that range, which comes as an array of arrays. And then here I'm just cleaning that up. So there's just becomes a list of strings. And then I'm just joining the strings with a space or space. So then that becomes this string here. And then it puts that into the Gmail search query. I'm initializing a variable here just to hold all the results that come back from this. I'm getting all the threads that come back from the query. For each thread, I'm getting the messages. For each message in each thread, I'm getting the subject. I'm adding the subject to this messages processed variable. And then at the end, once this is all done, I'm logging all of this. And then up here, we can see that I've got a bunch of email subjects that sort of that match the the requests that I sent to it. So with that, you could obviously move the whole thread to the trash. You could do some extra error checking, and with this, you could just let's see, yeah, let's just do a final thing. Gmail app .send email recipient. So let's just imagine we have a recipient, and then the subject is, this is a summary. And then we can just add in messages processed. I can't type anymore. And .join, we'll just join them with a space. And then that will send you an email. So I'll say Ryan@CodingNomads.co as a string, obviously. And there we go.
Wow. That was impressive. That was
very cool.
impressive. Nice work.
Okay,
Yep.
I hope that was clear to everyone. If anyone has any questions on the code or anything at all, now is the
I'd like
time to.
I'd like to make two comments as we were going on, especially for the students who are here. There were two things
Sure.
that struck me about this. Number one is you kept going back to those docs and kept looking back at those documents to find out what these things were. And you kept hunting. It was like you were looking for delete, move, trash. You weren't quite sure. You knew it was there, but you weren't quite sure
Right.
where. And so you kept looking, and thanks to Jalad for helping us out and pointing that
Yeah.
out. But this constant back and forth and try something. And, especially when we found when we got the values, and we tried to print those out. Well, that didn't work. The first time you went through this, you tried to just delete, just do the delete on the messages. Well, that didn't work because it's a list. You have to get into those. So it's this continually back and forth, trying things that I think is key. and is something that I think is very key for everybody to see, you know, especially in a live coding exercise. This is normal. I mean, none of this looked odd to me. Ryan, you can chime in. Some of the more experienced coders can chime in. That was normal. Just the back and forth and try it. This didn't work. Oh, we got to do this and we got to do this. And you know, I think that's awesome to see.
Completely
Oh,
agree.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to hammer that home, because as you can see, the docs here, like there's just so much, and
Yeah.
it's easy to get confused with sort of move to trash or just trash or delete. Google are very good about being consistent, about using the same names and being consistent across all their methods, but they're not perfect. And there's a whole load of things that really don't make a lot of sense and are maybe unintuitive or just plain don't work. So there is always just an inevitable back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Well, let's open this up for questions. Are there? Do we have any questions from anybody at this point? We can chime in if you want to put it in the chat. That's great. If you'd rather just unmute yourself and ask away, go ahead and ask away. And if you can't unmute, let me know. I thought we had everybody able to unmute, but maybe not.
I was just gonna concur with John that I always tell my students that I forget everything, so I look up all the time. And basically, I got a PhD by Googling everything.
A PhD in Google search syntax.
Yeah.
That's more true than anybody would ever guess.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's a site called Let Me Google That For You. So.
Right.
Exactly.
So maybe by like a show of hands, because I think is that something you can still do in here? There used to be an option to raise your hand, but
yeah, there's
to me,
reactions down there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
To me, it seems I can see immediate day-to-day use with this. With what at CodingNomads, we've got whether we would like to admit it or not, many spreadsheets in play. And there's lots of data. There's lots of things to keep track of, and we've got multiple dynamic spreadsheets that we're working with on a near daily basis. And I'm immediately thinking I could make my life a lot easier with this. So thank you for making my life easier, Ian and Google.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else, I've been getting a new message from Google that I'm at like 96% of capacity and that they want me to pay for more storage.
Yeah, they're just putting that into motion these
right?
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going from the photos that used to be, they didn't used to count to your storage quota from the 1st of June. They're counting to your storage quota now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, of course I'm never gonna pay for email storage, so this would be a good way to clean out emails from 10 years ago and stuff like that. So
yeah, you can do. I've not done this actually with attachments, but there's an attachment class in the Gmail thing, and I imagine you can get the size somehow. Get attachments.
Get bytes.
Get size. There we go.
Yeah, get size.
So
get bytes, yeah.
That'd be a nice way to just go through all your emails, and if anything's over 5 megabytes, present it to you so you could process it.
I just wanted to add that anyone who uses Microsoft, I don't know if anyone here uses SharePoint, my university does, there's an exact same API. I mean, identical in its own way. It's not as pretty because it's Microsoft, but you can do everything the same with your, I don't know about your emails, but definitely Excel and Word have a full-fledged coding scripting thing. It's in, I think it's VBA is their language. They don't use JavaScript, which is the one super downside.
The actual apps that you run, I don't know about the web apps, but the actual apps that you run it used to all be VBA. So
yeah, I think it's still VBA. But if anyone's interested in that, just so everybody knows that the corollary exists for Microsoft Office, essentially. So what you see here is in that universe as well. And so if you're a company or your team or yourself, if you're a Microsoft person, then you can do the same things. Basically, it's the same exact set of skills.
Yeah, and if you go a more open source shareware route and you use something like OpenOffice or LibreOffice, they have an API as well that you can code in. So those are all standalone apps that you can do the same kind of things with.
Nice.
Yeah, VBA is great. That's how I actually got hooked with coding back in the day. It's to me it's faster, I think, because it runs on your desktop on like your actual machine, whereas AppScript runs on the servers. I think AppScript is well, at least my experience of VBA was that it was much more technical. AppScript was easier to sort of get up and running and to link between different services like Calendar and Gmail and these things than it was for Excel, than for VBA. Though I know that Microsoft are coming out with their own sort of AppScript in JavaScript as well. That's going to be web-based to, you know, pair up with their Microsoft Office 365 thing. Yeah.
Back in the day,
5 megabytes is a good way.
I've got I've got a couple of my students here, and so I've told them I used to work for Microsoft and started back in 1995 with them, and I actually did Office support. That was my first job, actually, Microsoft Access support, and so a lot of what I did was VBA support for people who were writing Access scripts in VBA. So.
Nice.
Yeah, loads and loads of fun. It was amazing some of the stuff that you could do with it. You know, just you know.
And it's amazing how far some people try and push these things.
Yeah. I'm always amazed at the types of things that people do with the code and with the tools that we give them, or the tools that are provided that we come up with. And you know, people run entire businesses off of Excel. You know, that's their entire thing, or off of Google Sheets. That's their whole finance department is all a bunch of Excel Excel code or Sheets code and tracking it all that way. So it's amazing some of the things that people can do with this.
It is incredible. I would definitely trust Microsoft products and VBA with more data, I think, than I would with Google, just because it's you can access it locally on your hard disk. You don't have to have it in Drive. Although, I mean, in terms of security, it's probably safe. But yeah,
probably
incredible.
I was gonna
who knows.
comment on Sennett's comment here where he says, honestly, you could get a little side hustle doing this for folks, which is absolutely true. This is a totally viable skill. And absolutely. Ian, is this not, I don't know exactly the details, but this is something that you've done and are doing for people for,
as a side hustle. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ian's side hustling this right now, which is, I can see why this, the vast majority, in my experience, of at least small businesses are using Google services in some way. I don't know if the vast majority is correct, but many of them, right?
I think it's something that's like spreadsheets are so ubiquitous, and I feel that there's, in my professional career, I've always come across sort of spreadsheets. They're always there, and there's always the desire to sort of move to a database and to move to a better system. But in the end, spreadsheets always stick around. You can never, ever get rid of them. And there are some applications where you really don't need a massive database. And I think Google Sheets, one file or Google Sheets file has a limit of 5 million cells, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, automatically there you're dealing with tens of thousands of rows, of potential rows that you can use. Obviously, it's going to be slower and maybe not as reliable as a database, but especially for prototypes and small things that you don't need that much data, perfectly adequate.
One of the last projects I worked at Microsoft, I had to grab some telemetry data from people who were using a certain app, and Microsoft captures telemetry data for all the apps that we put on. So I had to go and mine all this data month by month to see who was using the app and figure out what our mitigation strategies were going to be for certain things. And so I'd pulled all the telemetry data and I was going to pull it all into Excel. because that's what I knew. That's how I knew how to manipulate all the data. I quickly ran into the Excel limit, which was 1,000,000-something rows of data. So I wound up having to go back to our telemetry and write some query language to kind of funnel that down and make it more manageable. But by the time I got it down to, it was about 100,000 rows or so, boom, it was right into Excel, and I start writing pivot tables and I start putting charts together. And, so we've got all this data, we've, just terabytes and terabytes of data, but I'm trying to whittle it down and get it into Excel because that's how I can manipulate it properly. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great data analysis tool that
Mhm.
it's just universal.
Yep.
You can never escape the spreadsheet as much as you'll try to do it. And I've tried to convince people to go to databases, and we've got databases, but then we end up just with like various different databases and spreadsheets.
Mhm. So, okay, any questions from anybody else? I mean, we've been kind of sitting here talking shop. Anybody have questions, anything they want to go on, talk about?
Well, I was just gonna quickly respond to Senate and Jared's comments in the chat, just because I was remembering an article I read maybe a year or two ago about a group. They were interviewing different people who had figured out how to automate their jobs, and I think it was like I don't remember. It was different types of jobs, but probably like data entry and different types of things. And so basically, the people fell into three camps. There were the people who never told their employer and spoke on condition of anonymity that they had automated their jobs and would just go in and press go and just screw around all day. And then there was another group that had told their employer that they had figured out how to automate their jobs and then got fired because basically the employers got them to show them what they were doing and then hired somebody cheaper to do the same work. And then the third group, which I think is actually helping should work, got promoted for being smart and good. But basically everybody in that article had done something like Coding Nomads and a boot camp or something and just learned how to code and then just, revolutionized their job. Anyways, I just thought that was good for anybody here, that there's always smarter ways to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But don't get fired.
Yeah, keep the politics in mind.
So is there any cost to using this, Ian?
That's a good point. There is no cost. There are, so let's look at the quotas, actually, that could be interesting.
I'd also be interested in scheduling. Like how would you set this up so that it runs every
Right. Okay. So
at 8 a.m.
yeah,
every day or something?
actually, there's a few things that that'd be cool to actually touch on. So in the guide section here, we can see types of script. And there's I'd say two main types of script. The one that we saw, which is just sort of running in the background, interacting with different Google services, getting data and sending emails or putting data into spreadsheets and stuff like that. But then there's also web apps. So you can actually write HTML and normal JavaScript in a file here. You can see here, file, HTML. And then you can actually host this as a web page. And then your HTML can communicate with the backend, which is your app script, and they can communicate back and forth. And so you have like a pseudo full stack experience, which I think is incredible. Again, free.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah. And I'm actually developing a sort of pseudo database, the REST API kind of database that works, so you can make GET requests and stuff to an app script project, and it behaves a lot like a normal REST API. Anyway, so what was the other question? The triggers. So there's a whole bunch of triggers, which means that when something happens, do something else. Spreadsheets have sort of on edit, which is a very powerful one. So whenever any user, not a script, it won't trigger with script edits. But when a user changes a value in a cell, it can run a script. that can get out of hand. Obviously, if you've got loads of users, there's certain limits which we're going to come on to. Other ones is on open. So whenever someone opens a file, it will run a script. On install refers more to add-ons. If any of you have used add-ons in Gmail or in Sheets, they're all written in AppScript. And there are also time-based triggers. So run every 5 seconds is something that is feasible. Run every year, run once in the future. You can even have a script that runs, and then when it's done, it creates another trigger to run after a calculated time. So maybe it's doing data and it figures out that it needs to run in the next month. So it'll run in next month, or next week. So it'll run in next week.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Because you said on edit in the sheet, it would only work if a user does it, not if like an audit, like a service does it.
Correct.
Is that just another service that needs to get or like another method that needs to be called, or is it possible? Because I have sheets that get updated automatically.
Yeah.
And I'd love to trigger an event off those.
Yeah, loads of people would. No, it's
Yeah.
not possible.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, as far as I think there is actually, we found at work, there is a kind of sneaky way around that. Way too complex to get into right here, but
Okay.
there is a way, so maybe we can talk about that later. And if anyone has any questions or wants stuff later, then feel free to get in touch. I'm more than happy to, and I enjoy talking about this stuff. We were also going to talk about quotas, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So let's see where. Explore the development environment. Can't remember where it is now. Quotas. But yeah, there are certain quotas, and if you have a workspace account, a paid workspace account, you get more quota. But it is free. So I haven't run into a situation yet, and I use this for, I have regular scripts growing every day or various times a day, and I haven't run into any sort of quota issues. So you can create 5,000 calendar events. You can read write emails, excluding send, 20,000 per day. Don't know exactly what that means. Down here are the more script limit. So you script runtime. If your execution takes longer than 6 minutes, it will just cut it out. Simultaneous executions, you can have 30 executions going at the same time. That applies a lot to web apps or things where you have lots of users interacting with your script. So you can have 30 things going at the same time. And yeah, so here are the quotas. If anyone's interested, I'll put them into the chat.
And then once you reach this quota, do you just start being charged, or does it just cut you off?
Oh yeah, great question. No, it just cuts you off. It'll give you an error warning, an error message saying you've run up to the quota. Wait 24 hours, or wait till the next period where it starts to calculate its quotas. So yeah, you don't have to give any credit card information to get up and running. All you need to do is create a Gmail consumer account, and you can get scripting.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I think, I should also mention Ian is the author of the JavaScript course on CodingNomads online learning platform, the one that's already there. And behind the scenes, yeah, it's a great course. So if you're really interested in AppScript, but you're not too comfortable with JavaScript yet, that's a perfect place to go check out. It's a really nice introduction to just programming with vanilla JavaScript. And behind the scenes, he's also developing a more advanced JavaScript and React and introduction to libraries and frameworks of JavaScript course, which is really exciting. And Ian also mentors JavaScript students at CodingNomads, and many of you have probably already seen him in the forums or on Slack. So big thanks to you, Ian, for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge with us, and and being our JavaScript and AppScript guru. And I'm gonna have to get some time on your calendar to give you another one of those side hustle gigs to help CodingNomads with some of this stuff.
I'm well up for it. thanks, guys, for listening and being here. It's a pleasure and an
Cool.
honor.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. So
Yeah, thank you.
Ian, when we started these brown bags, we were looking for people to deliver the brown bags. Ian and Jalad were the two people who just jumped right up and said, "I'll do this," and we got them scheduled immediately. And always glad to have you, always wanting to have you back. And for anybody here on the brown bag, if there's something that you would like to present on, there's something that you'd like to talk about, we have got some open spots coming up. We've got stuff coming up in August, September. We're getting people lined up, but this is not just for the mentors and the instructors and Kim and Ryan. This is for everybody. If you've got something that you think that would be useful to the Coding Nomads community, drop me in the line, drop Ryan a line and say, hey, I'd like to talk about this for half an hour. We'd love to have you come on and give a presentation. Speaking of that, kind of a little self-promotion here. The next one of these brown bags we have coming up is in 2 weeks, and that's going to be me. Hello. And I'm going to be talking about writing games. I got started in computing writing games. I loved doing it and got out of it when I started working for money, and decided I was coming back into it when I started teaching. And so I enjoy writing games. I enjoy putting them together. And so we're going to look at Python and Java, kind of the basics of putting a game together. I know the Python and the Java courses have games in them. The blackjack game, the Go Fish game, they do the same thing. They have the same kind of structure as, you know, Fortnite or Halo or any other game that you have, chess, basketball. They all have the same kind of structure. And so we'll go over that and how you put it together. The other thing, one other thing I wanted to mention, we have a new coding challenge that dropped today. It is in the forum. I dropped it in the Slack as well. We'll get get an email put out so that folks know about it as well. This one is a slight modification of an Advent of Code challenge, the very first Advent of Code, which, if you don't know, is a big coding challenge. It happens around Christmas time every year, hence the Advent. And it's 25 days, so December 1st through December 25th, 2 puzzles a day. And basically the 2 puzzles drop every day. So there's a little bit of competition there amongst people who really want to compete. But for the rest of us, it's just fun. They are a set of puzzles that tell a story throughout the month of December. And they're lots of fun. You can solve them in any language you want. I remember solving one of the puzzles in Excel, actually. It wasn't even scripted. It was just I needed an Excel spreadsheet to solve the problem. So you can write in Python, you can write in Java, you can write in BASIC, you write in Snap, you can write in Go, it doesn't matter. For our purposes, obviously it's going to be Python or Java. And all the details are there. And I would encourage folks as well to try out the Advent of Code. When December comes, I'm going to be, or actually when October, November comes, I'm going to be pitching it hard because I love this contest. I think it's a lot of fun. They can be friendly competition, and after every day is done, you can go and look and find the answers. People post stuff in Reddit all the time. So that's this month's coding challenge. Should be lots of fun. Should set up for some other good coding challenges that we have later on. That's it. I want to turn it over to our founder and benefactor, Ryan. Anything you'd like to say?
I think this has been really great. Thank you again, Ian. Thank you, John. And yeah, the one thing I would say about the Advent and Code, if try not to, for those of you that are attempting it, try not to Google it too much before you give it a good solid pass. But looking forward to seeing all the submissions and looking forward to your session next week. In 2 weeks, John. And we will, I'll upload this video and we'll share it across the forum and so you all have access to it. And everybody have a great day. Thank you.
I'll also post a script in the forums as well if anyone wants to have a look. And yeah, feel free if you need anything AppScript related or chat. Hit us up.
All the things that we'll share on the forum about this, we'll put it in the post about today's brown bag. So I'll put the video link there. We can put the scripts there. If you have any additional questions, or people watching this later, if you have questions, feel free to ask them there in that post ideally. And also there was a couple of comments. One was great. from Michael. One coder, Redditor, Filet of Fish, went viral for
Oh, yeah, I
being
didn't
fired
see
after
that.
6 whole years of automating their job and enjoying the ultimate Slacker lifestyle. In their post, they write, from around 6 years ago up until now, I have done nothing at work. I'm not joking. So we'll share some of these links and stuff as well from the chat in the forum post. So thank you, everybody. This has been a fantastic Brown Bag session. Thank you, John. Thank you, Ian. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Looking
John.
forward to
Thanks, Ryan.
chatting with you soon.
Thanks all.
Cool.
Guys, bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
See you guys later.